Well, folks, I'm sure by now you've probably seen the new transfer groups floating around, and if you haven't, or if you're watching this video in the far future, surprise, surprise, the developers decided to do kingdom transfers 2 weeks early. This is quite a deviation from the historic 56-day interval that they've done every other transfer on in Kingshot. But if we look at Whiteout Survival, where transfers are every month, sometimes they do this in advance of a feature that would not play nicely with people transferring kingdoms at the same time. So perhaps maybe the developers have something cool in store for us on the week of the 26th. We'll have to wait to find out. But whatever the case may be, these are probably not the transfer groups you were expecting. And in the interest of supporting the community as we all grapple with the fallout of this, I want to take a moment to unpack exactly how all of this works, and how we're changing our tools in Optimizer to help all of you have some way of trying to forecast what's going to happen for the next transfer so you can plan around it. So first, let's talk about these groups and why they ended up with unexpected numbers. Now, what you don't see behind the numbers in a chart like this is that kingdoms are clustered into individual groups that we call pods simply to differentiate from transfer group. And each of these pods are synchronized in their progression through Kingshot and new features being released. So if we were to break down this group 1, there's actually 5 pods behind it. Kingdoms 1 through 6, which always move together in their kingdom progression. Kingdoms 7 through 25, which also move together in their kingdom progression. 26 through 67, 68 through 115, and 116 through 175. And by the time Monday, April 13th rolls around, these 5 kingdom pods will all be in the Generation 6 stage of kingdom progression. Now, had this actually come 2 weeks later after KVK, in keeping with the historic interval of kingdom transfers, then a 6th pod composed of kingdoms 176 through 235 would also have been included in Group 1 since they would also be in Generation 6. And that corresponds with the Group 1 prediction you might have seen before of kingdoms 1 through 235. And a similar thing plays out across each of these other groups where we're essentially shifted by one pod. And to give you a clearer sense of what I'm talking about, let me show you the data model that's underneath the Optimizer website. So here you can see the original prediction that we had when there was the expectation that the developers would keep their historic 56-day interval for transfer windows. And under that setup, you can see how we get the groups. Kingdoms 1 through 235 would have been in the Gen 6 group, Kingdoms 236 through 505 would have been in the True Gold 8 group, and so on and so forth. And as a side note, this is why the groups are actually different sizes. In addition to the different amount of kingdoms in the different clusters based on when they were created, new features arrive in kingdoms at different intervals. Some as short as only a 2-week period where you had Red Governor gear without Generation 4 heroes, and some as long as the 12-week period where you only have Generation 6 heroes. And as long as you've gone through and collected the start dates of 1800 plus kingdoms like we have, then generating a new prediction for a different transfer date is just as simple as entering in a new date cell and letting the rest of the model do the work for you. And here you can see how with one simple date change, the model has Generation 6 only going to 175, Group 2, which would be the True Gold 8 group, is 176 to 417, the third group would be Kingdoms 418 to 674, and so on and so forth, which looks a lot like the prediction that we were just shown. So while this is a good test of resiliency for the model, it's probably not all that compelling in helping you answer, how do I prepare for future transfers? And that's what ZBrave and I have been hard at work at over the past 24 hours since this prediction came out. And while we can predict transfers for many different dates in the future, to succinctly state the problem, we previously considered the date of transfer a constant, but now it is shown it's a variable which can be changed arbitrarily by the devs. And this is exactly how we've been thinking about it in our Optimizer to give you additional guidance to prepare for the next transfer. So you've probably seen it's already been updated to have the new groupings, consistent with the new date. And even though it's not shown on this sheet at all, we still feel confident about the ordinary and leading caps for the kingdoms within those groups because that's based on the age of the kingdoms within that group. But now if we look ahead to the next transfer, we have a new category called Forecast. And if you click on Transfer 6, for example, then you'll see we'll have the different date scenarios where the developers could potentially put it. And if I put in my own Kingdom 21, for example, you can see information relating to all the different transfer options. Now you can see the possible date scenarios the developers might pick, along with what you need to believe for those to happen and the likelihood we think that that will be the date. But even within a wider aperture of different scenarios, there are some commonalities of things that can help you plan. For instance, because of those transfer pods that I talked about, I can tell if I sort by co-occurrence that there will be certain kingdoms that will be in my transfer group even on all 4 of these different dates. Then there are some additional ones that are going to be on 3 of the 4 dates, and so on and so forth, until you get to ones that only have a 1 in 4 chance of appearing in the same transfer date. So while we can't know for sure which date the developers will choose next time, we can at least give you feedback on how risky or certain your transfer plans are for the next Kingdom transfer. And if you want to look more into a given scenario, you can simply click the drop down at the top here and step into it and see which kingdoms will be in your group and what their transfer cap will be for a transfer that would happen on that given date. And just like before, we have that target kingdom field. So if, say, I wanted to transfer to 45, then I can see in 3 of the 4 scenarios in that next transfer window, I would be able to do so. And if I wanted to step into one of those scenarios to take a closer look below, I can select that up above. The context here changes, and I can see all the other groups within that scenario I can go to, along with their chance of co-occurrence across all scenarios. And a special thanks to our website sponsor, Paxify. If you purchase in-game packs with them, part of the proceeds go to help offset all the various hosting, computational, and even AI token costs to build new features for you. Without their sponsorship, ZBrave and I would be losing money on this thing. So be sure to use creator code OPTIMIZER whenever you check out with them. And also a special thank you to my Sloth Squad channel members whose continued support helps make my work possible. It really means a lot to me to have you in my corner. So look, obviously it isn't ideal to have all these different scenarios to now juggle while you're planning, but this is what happens when the developers decide to add uncertainty into the game. And ZBrave and I have spent way too many hours over these last few days to spin up an entire new user interface that can help bring some sense of certainty to you. So we really hope that this is useful as you navigate the disruption for transfer events, and continue to keep checking back to the tool as we'll continue to improve on it as we get feedback from all of you. And if you are a Kingshot developer who's somehow listening to this, please, I urge you to make a statement or something about returning Kingdom Transfer to a normal pattern again. You may have very good reason for changing things that we don't know about, and look, that's fine. But it is a challenge to express just how deeply dissatisfied many community members are by this sudden change. Consider for a moment that some alliances have been planning and working out details for months as they plan to move kingdoms, only to find out that that is no longer possible. And worse, now they have to scramble on short notice for transfers next week and come up with a whole new plan. Post-alliance and kingdom leadership teams are in chaos right now, and I fear some good players may churn from the game as a result of all of this, simply because they dared to plan ahead, which is the whole way you're meant to play a game in the strategy genre. And while variety can be fun, unpredictability is different. Unpredictability means it can become impossible to strategize, which is a poor user experience for a live ops strategy game where you can't simply restart a level and do it over. And the stakes are even higher here versus your other games since the transfers are not every month. Anyway, you all get the point. It would be in the best interest of your community's health if you at least shared the expected transfer dates a bit more in advance. And I'll just leave it at that. Thanks again for watching, and happy gaming out there.